Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to episode 66 of Talking Asperger's with Andrew. My name's Andrew Marsh, and I have Asperger syndrome. It's a form of autism, and it means I have some challenges, but it also means I have some skills. And what I do is I now work with employers to help them better manage people like me, people who are autistic, people who have Asperger's syndrome in their businesses, in their workplace, because you can't just manage them in the same way as you can neurotypical people. There are certain traits that we have, certain characteristics that we exhibit, that means we need to be looked at in a slightly different way in some circumstances. Now, it may be that with very simple, reasonable adjustments, which is what they're called under the Equality Act of 2010, um, you can make someone's life in your workplace fulfilling and suitable so that they have the right place in the right environment to work to be effective at their best, which is what you want from all of your staff. Doesn't matter whether they're autistic or not. You want, and it's your job as a business, to find the right way to support everyone in your business so that they can be their optimum best and their most efficient and most productive. That's the nature of business when you employ people. So I now work with employers to help them do that. And throughout the series of webinars that I have on a Wednesday afternoon, I talk about a specific thing relating to autism or Asperger syndrome. Use examples from my career. I used to be a geologist in the construction industry before I knew I had Asperger's, but I always knew I was different. To get the diagnosis 7.5 years ago really made everything fit into place. So what I want to do today is I want to talk to you about something that is perhaps not as appreciated as it should be. One moment. And that is the importance of rest for autistic people. Now, we all of us know that you need to sleep well, sleep fulfilled and fitful so that you can wake up in the morning feeling refreshed and you can tackle whatever it is the day that's going to be, whether that's work, whether it's a weekend and you're not working and you've got the family, you're doing things with your kids and your spouse. All of that's important. We all understand the need to get good, proper rest, proper sleep. For autistic people, it's particularly important. And the reason being is, let's take an example of you have a team meeting. You have all your team around, the boss is sitting there, and the various aspects about the business or the nature of the project that you're working on are discussed for some time. The person who is autistic, the autistic person, is going to be sitting there not wondering whether they're doing the right thing, not wondering, I've got a point to ask, but should I ask it? Am I going to get ridiculed if I ask it? If someone's going to say, that's a stupid question, what do you want to ask that for? Or, we covered that last week, or don't be ridiculous, or hey, what? All of these things are going through their head all of the time when they're sitting there thinking, why isn't someone asking this question? I need to ask this question. And that can stress them out. Being in the team meeting and the team dynamic can be very stressful for autistic people because they don't know the expectation on them. They don't know the expectation of others, and they don't know how things are going to pan out, whether they're going to feel welcomed, whether they're going to feel comfortable, whether their contribution is valued, whether they, as I just said, whether they're going to get ridiculed or told off or made fun of. They don't know any of that. So walking into a team meeting situation is incredibly stressful for an autistic person. It's even more stressful if they have to do a presentation. So if the boss has said to you, oh, I want you to make a presentation Friday afternoon to the team about what you're working on, that is so stressful for them, because how much do they include? What do they put in? What do they take out? How long have they got? Have they got 5 minutes? They've got 10 minutes? They've got to do an hour? All of these things have their own variables that go around in our heads as to what to do, how to behave, can we ask questions, is the chair going to be comfortable if they've got a bad back, is the environment going to be good, is the lighting going to be too bright, is the noise from outside the room that's going to be distracting, or noise inside the room, is that going to be distracting, are there going to be 2 or 3 people down the other one end of the room meeting, having a conversation separate to the main conversation? I've been in meetings when I was a geologist in the construction industry where we're having one meeting, but there's people down the end of the room having a separate conversation about something. It is so off-putting. It's so rude. It's very rude. You have one meeting, one agenda. Yes, everyone should get the opportunity to make their point, but don't have a separate conversation with someone at the bottom of the meeting when you're trying to discuss one particular topic. If that's important, say, actually, I'd like to bring this up when we've got through this point, if you wouldn't mind. And then you get the opportunity to make your point. So autistic people, people with Asperger's syndrome, have a myriad of things going through their head as to how that environment is going to make them feel. Are they welcomed? Are they going to be ridiculed? All of those things that I've just talked about. And the natural result of being in such a stressful situation is they are going to need rest. And they need to have good rest, and they need to have proper rest. And it may well be that if you've had that meeting on a Monday morning, or worst, Friday afternoon, 3 o'clock, you're going to have to allow that autistic person time to sit and reflect and calm down, desensitize from the hullabaloo and the intensity of 10 other people in the room, all having their agendas, all having their things they want to say. It is so stressful, and they need to find a place to unwind, relax, calm down. And it may well be that the safe space that you have, which is one of the 7 steps on my 7 steps program that I work with employers on how to manage people with autistic people and people with Asperger's syndrome, that the safe space is exactly where they need to be after that meeting. So they go to their safe space, they get a cup of tea, cup of coffee, and go sit there for 10 minutes. Nothing else. No one else, nothing else. Just let them sit quietly. If there's things they want to ask, they'll come out of that safe space and ask someone, usually the boss about something, or a colleague about the interface that they need to have to discuss how to progress certain aspects that they know about. But by and large, if they've had the intensity of an hour-long meeting with colleagues where they've been required to contribute, where their contribution is important, so they need to be clear and concise about what they're saying, they're going to need to unwind after that meeting. It is no good after that meeting saying, right, guys, let's get back onto it. Boom, we've got 2 hours left today. Let's nail the figures for today. That's not going to work for your autistic person. They are going to be so stressed out about being in that meeting, even if they didn't say anything in the meeting. The intensity, the points of view of other people, which may be contrary to theirs, but they haven't necessarily had the confidence to speak up. All of these things have added to their mind just being getting to an overload situation where they can't cope. So if they've had that meeting, let them go and sit for 10 minutes somewhere quiet. Or let them go for a walk around the block, or go and stand outside the building. And you're going to say to me, oh no, we've got to get production up. We've got to keep going with that. Okay. What about your smokers? Do you allow people who smoke in your business to go and stand outside, or even have a designated smoking shelter outside next to the car park where they can go and stand for 10 or 15 minutes and have a cigarette? You accommodate that. So why can't you accommodate an autistic person who's getting stressed to say, I just need to go and stand outside, or I want to go to the safe space, or I need to go for a walk around the block? There is no difference. Well, there is really. The smoking is an addiction. The autistic person needing somewhere to get away from the hullabaloo of what's just gone on in the meeting is a necessity for their mental health and well-being. And I do mean necessity. It's not just oh God, they're skiving off and going to go and stand outside with the smokers for 10 minutes. They probably don't want to have anything to do with the smokers. They probably just want to be on their own, in their own little bubble, finding somewhere that they can de-stress, let go of all the hullabaloo that's happened in that meeting, and calm down, so that they can come back into the office or the business, and then be proactive, then be positive about what they're going to do for the rest of the day. And they can do that knowing that they have turned the volume down a long way, because their volume is probably 9, 9.5, 10, 10.5. And all it needs is one insensitive comment, one uninformed comment, someone saying something unimportant or insignificant, but it's just the switch that flicks them over into meltdown mode, or a serious verbal lashing and an uncontrollable verbal response to what, and physical response to what you've just said. They could be so close to that point. They have to go and turn the volume down so that they're calm, they're relaxed, they can be efficient about what they're working on when they return. That is so important for autistic people, to have the ability to do that. And the really, really important thing about that is that they don't have to ask permission, because it might just be that the very person they have to go and ask permission for to go to their safe space could be the one person who could trigger them more easily than anyone else, their boss. Their relationship with their manager, their supervisor, could be the point that could tip them over into a meltdown, into a situation causing a problem, causing an outburst. Everyone look, oh my God, what's going on? You want to avoid that. And having to ask permission is the worst and the absolute last thing that they would want to have to be able to do. What you do is you agree a signal with them, a simple signal. One of the things that I suggest with employers is, if it's an office-based situation where they've got a desk, or they have a desk where they work, let them put the hole punch or the stapler in the middle of their desk, so that when the manager comes out, oh, Andrew's stapler's on his desk. He's gone to his safe space. I know where he is. So in the event of a health and safety issue, or an emergency, or emergency fire drill, or a real fire drill, and an alarm goes off, you know where they are, so that if they haven't made it to the evacuation point, you know where to send the rescue services to go and find it. There's someone in this room on the second floor, third door on the left. They haven't reported to the evacuation point. That's where they were last seen. So that person can be found and accounted for in a health and safety situation. But the point I'm trying to make is, it's really important that when they've got to that point where they need to get away, they don't need to ask permission. They just got to go, hole punch, middle of my desk, and slink out. Now, they might say to one of their colleagues, I'm just nipping out for 10 minutes, I'll be back. But they might be in the mental state that they're not able to do that. They're not able to engage with a colleague to even say that, because that engagement with someone else is the last thing they need. They just need to be able to get out, get away, turn the volume down, relax, rest, refocus, have a cup of tea or coffee, and then come back to work. So rest is really important. We all know that. But autistic people have a tendency to need to be able to unwind from situations like a stressful situation. As I said, I used to work as a geologist, and there were times when I was incredibly stressed. I worked in one particular company that had multiple offices, or multiple floors of a 6-story building. And sometimes I would find myself on a different floor in a different department, and I would stop and I would go, why am I here? Why am I on the 4th floor outside structural engineers department? I was a geologist. Why would I? And I would stop and I go, why am I here in this specific point? And I would then try to rationalize that with, is this where I'm supposed to be? The answer would generally be no. But what I had done unconsciously is I had felt the need to get out of a stressful situation in my department where I was working. So I went for a walk in the building to calm down, to try and de-stress. This was before I knew I had Asperger's, but I was still suffering from the overwhelm and the stress of a situation in work, with colleagues berating me and things getting on top of me. Some of the things I worked on were very highly stressed, and that take a toll on me. It definitely took its toll on me from time to time. When I realized that I'm standing outside a different department and I really shouldn't be there, I would make a mental note to have a conversation with myself quietly, to say, okay, right, we found ourselves where we're not supposed to be, but there's obviously a reason why you're here, because you needed to get away from where you were. So let's go and find something to do that is reasonably constructive. And I would tend to go to the main store for stationery. And there was a wonderful little man there who worked there. And I would pop and see him. We'd have a chat for 5 or 10 minutes. And then I'd collect a few folders and pencils and rubbers and things that I may or may not have needed. But at least I was seen to be getting something from there. So if someone says, where are you? Oh, I had to go to the stationery office to go and get some stuff. There was less opportunity to people to say, why were you there? What were you doing? I said, well, I had to go and get some stationery. So, but you were gone for, oh, yeah, okay, I had to, doesn't matter. And that's one of the things that I did. Was I would, and this gentleman was a wonderful gentleman. He was very calm, very collected, and just being able to have a quiet conversation about nothing was just enough to help me turn my volume down so that I could then refocus, go back to work with some folders, pens, notepads, pencils, whatsoever. And people did see me coming and think, oh yeah, you've been to the stationery office again, blah, blah, blah. That diffused a situation where someone goes, where have you been? What have you been doing? Because they can see you've got an armful of stationery in your hand. But I would find myself in strange places, strange parts of the building that I worked in that I really shouldn't be in, because I was so stressed and I needed to get away. Because the alternative to being able to find somewhere quiet, to go to the safe space or go and stand outside, is you have a meltdown in front of your colleagues, to a colleague or to your boss, or to someone who's come in and asked an innocuous question, but it's just enough to trip you over, and boom, you go into a meltdown. And trust me when I say this, having a meltdown is not a pleasant experience. Watching someone else have a meltdown is not a pleasant experience. When an autistic person has a meltdown, they are not in control of anything that they are doing. They have no control. They're what's coming out of their mouth, what words they're using, what actions they're doing, whether they're flailing their arms about, whether they look like they're being aggressive and maybe having clenched fists. They are not in control of that. Someone else is driving that bus. Something else inside them is driving that bus at that moment. And they don't know how to calm down, other than, got to get the heck out of there, got to get away. Fight or flight response. Got to get away, get out of the situation, find somewhere to calm down. That might just be going sitting in your car, in the car park. Go and stand outside, walk around the block, whatever it is. Got to find some way of getting out, and kind of calm down. A meltdown is not like a kid's tantrum. A kid having a tantrum because you wouldn't give him chocolate ice cream for his pudding, or he wanted to wear his green shorts and you put on his blue shorts, or didn't want to go and see his aunt because last time he was there she was rude to him or nasty to him. That is a voluntary choice that a kid makes to be naughty, to play up, to scream and shout and thump their fists and bang their feet. That is not a meltdown. A meltdown is an uncontrolled response to an external stimuli. The kid can stop that tantrum anytime they want. You give him his ice cream, you go, oh, stop. He'll sit and eat his ice cream. completely back to a normal frame of mind. Someone having a meltdown doesn't have that choice. They have to get away. And the two most destructive words someone can say when someone is having a meltdown is calm down. Trust me, I have never known anyone ever calm down when being told to calm down. Be that a colleague at work, be that someone who's in the pub and they're drunk. No one, I have never known anyone calm down when being told to calm down. So it does not work when someone's having a meltdown to say, oh, just calm down, will you? That just notches it up. Doesn't turn the volume down, it turns the volume up. So allow your autistic people and your people who have Asperger syndrome to calm down. Give them the opportunity to either go to the safe space, go outside, go for a walk, go sit in their car, and then calm down. It will pay dividends in the long run because they will come back, they will be refreshed, they will be able to concentrate on what they're doing, and they will have calmed down. The volume would have come way down from 9, 10 down to maybe a 3. Much better frame of mind to be able to concentrate on and do the work that they're doing. So if you're working with someone, and whether you know whether they're autistic or not, or whether they have other challenges, other neurodivergent traits, and they say, oh, just going to nip outside, or they've gone outside, or they've left the building and they've just gone away, allow them that time to do it. When they've come back and they've calmed down, maybe give them half an hour or an hour. If you don't know whether they're autistic or not, and they've just, someone's had to get away for a little while, just say, is everything okay? Is there something we can do to help? I noticed you disappeared from the department for a little while. Is there something we can help you with? Rather than, where the hell were you? You're late. You got to make up your time. Let's get away from the clock watching dictatorial manager with a clipboard and a stopwatch. Forget about that. Let's find out what the human being is doing and why they did what they did, and if there's some way that you can help them and you can support them. Because that way, the next time they need to get away, they know that they're going to come back to someone who is sympathetic to what has happened. And that makes such a difference to the understanding and to the making that choice to go and find that safe space, or go and stand outside, go and get away, get a break from that tense, stressful situation. If they've got a supportive team around them that gives them that freedom to do that, and let them rest. If not everyone, very few people can work at 100% efficiently for 40 hours a week. Doesn't happen. You will hear people say, oh yes, I do 60, 70 hours a week, no problem at all. Okay, you might be at your work for 60 or 70 hours a week, but are you effective and efficient for all 60 or 70 hours of that? Probably not. There may be some, but they can't keep that up for week in, week out, month in, month out. They'll get burnout, and they will crash and burn because they're not getting rest. They are so stressed up at what they're doing, they will not be able to cope, and they will have a breakdown. They will have a mental or a nervous breakdown where they're no good to anyone, not good to themselves, not good to their family, not good to the business, their employer. And you've basically just used someone out. The batteries have run dead. Boom, they've run out. They've gone. That's it. You can't get that back. When you've reached burnout, and I've been to that situation, I've been in that space, when you've reached burnout, you can't get back. You might be able to get some way back after 10, 15, 20 years, but it's not a case of have a 2-week holiday, come back, boom, back at 100%. It doesn't happen. People, when they get stressed, continual and prolonged periods of time will burn out. So if you have autistic people in your business, give them the opportunity to have that moment of that 10, 15 minutes of rest, to calm down, to refocus, lower the volume. Then they'll be productive. Okay, they may not be 100%, but they might be 80%. They might be good enough. One of the phrases that I heard someone say at a networking meeting I was at recently was, don't always aim for 100% or excellence. Sometimes getting it done is good enough rather than being excellent. If we're always striving for excellence in everything we do, you'll burn out. So sometimes getting it done is good enough. Be aware of that, so that the people in your teams, the people in your business, are given the leeway, the responsible response to what they're working on. If you've been pushing them hard for 2 months, something's going to crack. And that doesn't serve the business, because when that person has a breakdown, or they've had it, or they've gone home Friday night and yelled at the wife, yelled at the kids, or yelled at their spouse, and they've had it, they're no good to you Monday morning. They're done. They won't be good to you the following Monday morning or the Monday morning after that. It could take them 6 months before they even contemplate getting back to work. You've just burnt someone out and you've got no one to fill their place for 6 months. It happens. I've worked with people who have chronic fatigue syndrome. I have chronic fatigue syndrome. I know what it's like to get to burnout. I know what it's like to try and get back up on your feet after burnout. It doesn't happen quickly, and you never get back to anywhere near 100%. Some days I'm lucky if I can get out of bed and do anything other than minimal basic human functions. Making your breakfast, making a cup of tea, put some clothes on. That's it. That's as much as I can do. Don't burn your staff out. If they need to rest, if you're autistic, if anyone in your team needs to rest, give them a break. Let them go home an hour earlier. Providing they've got done almost what they need to do, let them go home an hour earlier. Say, do you know what? We've really pushed you hard for the last couple of weeks. Just go and take an hour off. Just, go home. Get home before the rush hour starts. And get home, get in. Just get home, sit down, have a cup of tea before your evening of family or whatever it is happens. They'll appreciate that. And you can deal with that. We've got to get away from constantly being driven by this thing on our wrists and the thing in the corner of your computer that tells you what the time is. Let's think about the human beings that we have around us. What do they need to be effective, efficient employees? I'm asking you, what do they need to be effective, efficient employees? They certainly don't need a slave master standing over them with a clipboard, a stopwatch, and a whip. That never worked when people did that. It doesn't work now. We're in the third decade of the 21st century. Come on, we can do better. Look after your staff. Let them rest when they need to. Let them take that hour off every now and then to get home. Be a responsible employer. Be a compassionate manager, or rather a leader. Be a leader. If you're in a position of responsibility over other people and you think yourself as a manager of this team of 8 people or 10 people that you have, I'm going to challenge you for a week. I'd like you to look up leadership versus management. You can stick it in your favorite internet search engine. Look up leadership and do that for a week. See what difference it makes to your team as effective being a manager. Be a leader. Support your team. Because your job as a manager of a team is to support each member of your team in the way that makes them effective, efficient, and at their productive best. Your job as a leader is to support everyone in your team so that they can be at their efficient, effective, productive best. And if that means you need to support these 2 people differently from those 6 people, that's what you do. If you need to communicate with people differently because of their challenges, because of their needs, because of their different ways of thinking, then that's what you do. Let's be leaders. Let's be aware that our staff need to rest, our employees need to rest. And whether that's letting them go for a walk around the block after they've had an intense meeting, or whether you've been pushing them hard for a few weeks, be aware that one day you'll push someone too far and boom, you'll get a phone call Monday morning. You can't come in. The doctor signed him off for 3 months because he's had a breakdown or he's completely wrung out. That's what will happen. Be aware that it could be you that happens to, the manager, the leader. You've got to look after yourselves as well. So that is today talking about the importance of rest. We all understand that. We all know that. Get a good night's sleep, feel better, refreshed in the morning. But there's more to it than that. There's understanding that certain people in your business need more rest and need a break from the hullabaloo and the intensity of what they've just been doing. Whether that's a team meeting, whether that's giving a presentation to the client, whether that's whatever it is. Understand that that person might need to have 10 or 15 minutes rest just to turn the volume down. You do that, you're going to support your teams better and they'll be more effective and they'll be more responsive to the requests that you make for, we need to put in a bit extra this week. We've got a tight deadline, important deadline. But then you look after them. You make sure you look after them and support them in the way that works. That works best for them. So that is all we have for today on being aware of neurodivergent people needing rest. And that might just be a 10 to 15 minutes away from what they've just been doing. And it will serve you, the business, better. And it will serve your teams better because everyone will understand that you're all working together for a common goal. Keep a lookout on LinkedIn on Friday or Saturday when I will be posting what next week's topic will be about. I have an idea, but I need to run that through my head just to see how it fits with me, how it sits with me. Don't forget that all of the videos to my Talking Asperger's with Andrew webinars are on my YouTube channel, and they are free to anyone to use, to view and comment on whenever you like. If you find my information of use, then I would really appreciate you to like, subscribe and comment on my videos on my YouTube channel. But until next week, thank you very much for your time. Take care and I'll see you then. Bye-bye.